There's this term that I learned recently called vibe coding. Almost everybody can build. What if there is a tool to help them deploy very, very quickly?
You have quite a journey, like starting from being a developer to becoming an engineering leader.
One thing that has stuck with me over the years since the very beginning of my career is I like to look at things holistically. I transitioned sort of into that journey at UpGrad, but the real challenges came along at Sumo Logic.
We can talk about your experience, how AI can help in the observability.
You need to learn yet another language to be able to make sense of your data. I think LLMs could do a great job there.
My mom always says, "Jo dikhta wahi dikhta."
In my first job, I accidentally deleted a UAT database.
It's okay. We are going to figure it out.
When the incident happens,
Panicking is not going to get you any solution.
it's very important to go back and clean up that mess.
पहले ये खत्म करते हैं ना.
पहले खत्म करते हैं.
Hi, welcome to the Incidentally Reliable podcast season 2. I'm Madhu. Today we have Sakshi joined us, co-founder and head of engineering for Kapstan. We will learn more about her. Thanks for joining us, Sakshi.
No, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I was looking at your profile, and you have quite a journey, like starting from being a developer to becoming an engineering leader, and then now co-founding a company at Kapstan. Talk a little bit about like how you have moved from one role to the other while navigating from UpGrad to Sumo Logic to Kapstan.
Yeah, so yeah, it indeed has been an interesting journey, and all of these roles have been very, very different. I think one thing that has stuck with me over the years since the very beginning of my career is I like to look at things holistically, be it like, development in terms of front end or back end or databases, whichever layer, or thinking about business and product and why we're making what we're making. That has been the constant. Of course, as an individual contributor, it was a lot about worrying about ensuring your code works perfectly and collaborating with the team. As an engineering manager or an engineering leader, that I transitioned sort of into that journey at UpGrad, but the real challenges came along at Sumo Logic. I was put in an interesting spot due to some change of events that happened at the company, and there was a lot of churn at the point in the company. So I was tasked with managing the team, the search analytics team actually, which is even today the cash cow for the company. Most of the revenue comes from there, and how do you ensure you motivate the existing team members, ensure that there is business continuity, ensure that the knowledge stays intact, and you can take things forward from there. It was a interesting 6 months. Learned a lot, and from there, obviously, learned a lot of things about team management, how to run things at that scale. I had not done that in the past before this. We were ingesting petabytes of data every single day at Sumo Logic. By the time I left, maybe a little bit less when I joined, but still quite huge. So that was that. And then, coming to Kapstan, co-founding a team, it is very, very different. No day is same. You're doing almost like you're doing different things every single day. So that's sort of been my journey so far.
Yeah, you have to wear various hats, right? Like one day you are a developer, one day you are testing something, one day you are helping a sales team. Observability platform, like when you were in the Sumo Logic observability platform, has evolved in recent years. When I was a developer, everything was in one place. Everybody was doing everything, but observability, DevOps has grown a lot. Talk a little bit about the transformation you have done at Sumo Logic when you were building the observability platform. It was a very big organization as well.
The sheer scale demanded a lot of things. How do you look at things differently? Certain technologies will scale up until a certain point, and then you'll hit limits. I think at some point in Sumo Logic, we realized that how we were functioning, and we had to. Then we decided to migrate to Kubernetes because it comes with a lot of benefits of being able to scale very, very efficiently, resource utilization, and then bin packing, and really efficiently using the resources that you have, and that sort of Kubernetes is a really powerful tool. But at the same time, it's really, really complex. Were also some of my learnings over there. It took a long time for the entire team. Of course, it was a large org to migrate. And that also were some of our thoughts when we started to decide building Kapstan, because while it is powerful and it is very, very useful and required for the kind of scale that people want to build for today, how do we make it much more easier for people, right? Back in the day, of course, like if you go years back, I'm sure everybody has logged into the SSH into the servers and kind of deployed things manually. And then multiple technologies came, and now with Kubernetes, you have to keep abstracting things. So with Kubernetes, the important thing was how do we abstract away a lot of the complexity for the end developer, and give them a intuitive user interface where they can just configure environment variables, configure auto-scaling parameters, and so on, and really spend their time building the core of their business and not managing infrastructure.
We talked about moving to Kubernetes. Scaling the systems come with a lot of incidents as well. Like when you are innovating, when you are implementing bigger systems, such a big organization, a lot of customers were there. So a lot of incidents also come in. And do you have any time when you were doing this much of heavy lifting or heavy scaling, any incidents? How did you handle those incidents?
Sumo Logic was all about better incident management, being able to find needle in the haystack. And interesting thing is that we were our own customers, and we set up a lot of processes around it. Every time, for instance, we used to. So there are two parts to it. One is when the incident happens, how quickly can you resolve it? You have to probably do a quick data migration, or you have to add a couple of nodes and increase the capacity, or you have to roll back a build to a previous version, right? Because you recently released something that's causing issues. And so you do a bunch of things to stabilize the system at that point. And if this is something repeatable, you can find a pattern out of it, it makes sense to document that into playbooks, which, if I have faced this issue once, and if it's something that we anticipate is bound to happen again, and someone else is waking up at 3 a.m, they should just know that this is our steps. I can blindly execute them and be done with it, right? That's one. Second, during that incident, obviously, you do some hacks and you just get the system to get working. So it's very important to go back and clean up that mess, right? If there was a mess that was created. And also it is very important to think about what caused it, how can you avoid it in the future. So we used to do something called postmortems, and we follow that even in Kapstan with a different name. But essentially, we had a template where you would put together a timeline of what happened, what the steps that you took, and how did you resolve it. And then there were things that you do after the fact that figure out the RCA, figure out the steps to recreate it. That gives a lot of insights into, okay, these are the parameters that can sort of cause this issue again. You do immediate bug fixes around that. You do cleanup around that, like I was saying, if any mess was created. You write test cases to avoid those things in future. So this sort of playbook has helped us a lot in stabilizing our system over a period of time. Then I think one other thing that was very important, is still very important, I think, is reducing alert fatigue. Like you have to separate what is important from the noise. Over a period of time in the systems, alerts keep getting added and added over, and then the person who is on call can get really tired and can miss out an important alert. So we've we would always review the alert volume that exists, see what can be turned into a low priority and what needs to remain a higher priority, and proactive monitoring instead of reactive action that we take in an incident, right? So build up dashboards which give you indicators into your systems, like over a period of time, is the latency for a particular API call or a particular service increasing? That's a indicator that you need to take a look at it, and you don't have to wait till the last minute for it to just blast. So those are some of the practices that we followed in order to make our processes smoother and more reliable, and not incidentally reliable, but proactively reliable.
Incidents are like unavoidable, like no matter what we do, but the process is what you explained, like asking those five whys, like why did this happen, did this happen, what could I learn from it, so that the next time this does not happen. That postmortem on RCA, what you talked about, is very important. When you learn from the incident, similar kind of incident should not happen. And being proactive than reactive is also like very important when it comes. So you can't have something go into the customer and then customer realizes is facing. You just want, and that is what all observability is all about. So that completely makes sense.
And just not just applying the fix locally to where the problem happened. I think, for instance, at any large company as large as Sumo Logic, there are a lot of patterns that are replicated across teams. There are a lot of abstraction layers that you build so that people don't do things over and over again in different product lines or product areas. So being mindful of sharing those,
the
learnings,
knowledge, what you have, and publishing it. Like this incident, there is no harm in talking about the incidents, whatever incidents happen. Correct. What you have learned from it, sharing it to people.
Yeah, and I think I want to add one more thing. Often these learning meetings or RCA discussions, adding the human angle to it, people feel afraid that, oh, this was my mistake, I did it. For instance, I think I can talk about this. In my first job, I accidentally deleted a UAT database. And obviously it was nerve-wracking. I had no idea, never dealt with infrastructure, I did not know if there was a backup, can I recover it or not? But I learned. And fortunately enough, my mentors were, calm about it, and they taught me through this journey. Funnily enough, at UpGrad, a colleague of mine did the same thing an hour before we were going to launch something major. So, things happen. Things will all, wherever things can go wrong, they will go wrong. It is important to put guardrails after you've learned something, one. And second, be kind to your fellow teammates. Problems happen, and at the same time, it's important to be vulnerable okay, this happened, I need help, or share your learnings that, this is how we can avoid it next time. So that's a very important factor in my mind.
Yeah, while you're resolving the problem or incident, or when you're doing a RCA, you cannot blame people. Like, that's not how you come to a conclusion. You come to a conclusion if you're like, you're calm. And then, once I had an incident when I was like a developer, and I was like panicking. Like, what happened? Like, our iPhone application is supposed to be showing a splash screen saying that we are in a maintenance mode, and it was showing a JSON. And my manager was there on the phone, sitting on the other side. He's like, Madhu, it's okay. We are going to figure it out. And I was like, what I'm doing right now is like, I'm eating mutton biryani. That's where I learned, panicking is not going to get you any solution.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody somewhere did something where it is displaying a JSON rather than displaying a splash screen. That's where I learned, like, no, anybody can make a mistake. It's not about blaming people, but we take care of the incident first, and then we talk about why this incident happened and how do we resolve this. One of the things when I was reading about Sumo Logic, like it is a very achieved a lot of performance when it comes to the writing and reading of the logs, like 50K reads and 5K writes. So how did you guys, like, if you are able to share a little bit, like, how did you guys achieve that in the Sumo Logic? That would be, I think, very helpful.
Sure. Yeah. I think, so this was one of the features that I worked on related to data enrichment of logs with, some additional data, which people wanted to do on runtime. I would say this was one of the features which we built incrementally. And that has also been a learning that, do not try to boil the ocean on day one, right? We did not achieve that scale on day one. We were given a tight deadline. It was linked with some release that was supposed to happen, and the underlying layer for this data that had to be used for enrichment used DynamoDB. So we started using DAX, which is it's a caching layer that Dynamo built over Dynamo, and they have the same APIs. So it was really fast to build. And at the time, we knew that there would be some limitations that we'll hit with this technology, but it was okay because number one, we should not sit on if there's a feature you're working on that nobody can go out and use. It's useless, right? Like you can keep building for scale if nobody's using it. It's pretty useless. So, so we went ahead with that, and we released a beta feature. We had a bunch of customers using it, and they were pretty happy with it. Slowly started getting adoption, and we started hitting limits. We had suspected that. And in fact, we reached out to Amazon for some of those bottlenecks that we were going through. And we asked for, they could help us scale it up a little bit more. But then we knew that, this is this is another important lesson, that sometimes a technology can have some limitation. So then, eventually we switched to another distributed caching layer over it. We had some time at our hand. We got it working for a certain scale, and then kept working to make it incrementally more scalable. So, yeah.
Perfect. That's a great example. Like, when we say we have built this product, we have built that product, some of the teams try to hit the mark where they want to deliver something which is like perfect.
Yeah.
But by the time you build that perfect product, the market has moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
You just want to read the market. That's where we get into the situations where sometimes it is not a market fit. When you build it, or you rather find it out about it at the beginning rather than building it like a bigger product, take your own time and then go to the market, and then customers are no more waiting for your product. And when we are building this kind of products where, it is not scaled or it is not perfect, and incidents are also inevitable at that point, like you'll get the incidents, and then you have to move fast.
Correct.
And you're signing up for those incidents.
Yeah. So this is the philosophy that we follow at Kapstan, that we want to bring out new things and test them in the market instead of waiting to make that perfect feature, right? In terms of technology, I have an interesting story to share here. So you have to be mindful of laying the ground. Your foundation has to be strong. Like, when you're constructing a house, your foundation has to be strong. You can think about skipping your interiors, or you can, if your foundation is strong, if your plumbing and electrical sort of wiring is strong, you can always, add another room later, add house automation later. But if your foundation is not strong, every time you have to get to something new, it's going to be a huge project undertaking, right? So in the beginning at Kapstan, of course, AWS is right now the market leader in terms of public cloud. So it was clear that we had to start supporting AWS from day one. When we did that, it would have been very easy for us to go very AWS specific, but keeping in mind that the foundation has to be strong. Our support for infrastructure was built on a Terraform layer, and we made conscious choices of very minute details being cloud agnostic, because when we have to, it's not a question of if but when we have to add GCP, when we have to add Azure and any other cloud for that matter, it's going to be very, very easy and fast. And at the same time, we knew that we cannot wait to launch the product in the market without we cannot wait to build support for all the clouds right at this moment, right? Because there are enough people who would buy us for AWS, for instance, right? So when we got our first GCP customer, we were actually able to turn it around in like under 3 weeks. Because the foundation was strong.
Foundation was strong.
Yeah.
All the pillars were built on
Correct.
there. So that perfect. Shifting gears here, we talked about the technology, your journey. Talk a little bit about your leadership style. How do you invest in teams? Like how the people culture, how do you feel that the organization or team should be in the organization to make the organization successful? Talk me through like what a good culture looks like for you. Like how do you build that culture in the engineering organization?
I've built teams at least a couple of times now across UpGrad, Sumo, and Kapstan. Now, things that stand out for me when I'm hiring, let's start from hiring, right? There is one part of it is skill, and the other part of it is attitude, right? Of course, you have to have some level of skill. Like you have to know your niche. You have to be good at something with respect to engineering. You have to be a great problem solver. But polishing skills can be done even when you get you're hired. Like during interviews, I tell a lot of my team members that don't worry about how they're naming the variables or how they're are you a tab versus a space kind of a person, right? All of that doesn't matter. You adapt to the style of the team. And then, of course, there are automated checkers, etc. around that nowadays. So all of that is not a problem. But attitude is very, very important. Are you willing to learn? Are you curious? Are you just, kind? Do you think that, I am this, super intelligent person, I'm going to code and I don't care about how you write code? And
I call them smart jerks.
Yeah.
So, do you really want a smart jerk in the team? Do they produce everything? No, you need a team player.
You need a team player, right? Correct. So yeah, that is one very important thing that I think look for when I'm hiring people. In terms of culture, other things are that, you own everything end to end. You can't say that I am a front-end engineer and my screen is working fine, or I am a back-end engineer and my API is looking good, right? It doesn't work like that. Your customer is not going to care about your API or how the button is placed on the screen or anything like that, right? They want an end-to-end user experience which is glitch-free and which is fast and just solves their problem. So, and then, being at Kapstan, we're still a very, very small team and almost everybody does everything. So, and at different stages of the companies, you follow different processes, so to speak. But right now, I think it's very important for all of our engineers to feel or go through the journey of how the customer is going to use the product, right? So, they're responsible for ensuring that when the feature is done, they will test it. Of course, they'll write automation tests around it. They will do public documentation around it. That gives a lot of, insights into, okay, is this now intuitive enough? Because when I'm coding and when I'm looking at the same thing for like 2 days, it feels natural to me. But when I zoom out and when I'm trying to write it in a document and see as a third person, is it intuitive? That gives a perspective, right? And then sometimes they would create videos of their features or write blog posts. All of that comes part of the picture. So you own everything end to end. So ownership is a very important thing in the team.
When you're building a product, when you understand the customer, when you're building a product, belonging to the organization, taking the ownership and responsibility of everything. I can echo that from my side as well. That's very important for the team building, people taking care.
And I think one other thing that comes to mind is learning culture, right? And right now, everything is changing at light speed. So, we have this bi-weekly meeting where we just get together and share anything interesting that we've come across, anything that we want others to try out, any AI tools that are helping us sort of do our job faster and better. So that's always encourage learning to be at the edge of the technology.
In this fast-changing AI, we can talk about a little bit your experience, how the AI can help in the observability, maybe in the Sumo Logic or here in Kapstan. How did you see AI helpful in observability?
At Sumo Logic, we had something called a Sumo query language. You need to learn yet another language to be able to make sense of your data and debug incidents and things like that. So I think LLMs could do a great job there. Like there is an integration. Can I type in English? Tell me about all the errors that happened between 3:29 a.m. to 3:40 a.m. Last night with XYZ data points and plot it for me like this, right? So if I can write it in plain English, that is very powerful. So needle in the haystack is one use case. With language, it can be much better. Then another thing is this is me asking or me prompting, but can we do something? So we're thinking about this problem quite a lot at Kapstan. When you think about, so you have infrastructure should not become a black box, or like once things go onto cloud, how do I sort of go about debugging it? So, overlaying a lot of things in terms of events, how the data is flowing, logs, metrics, all of those things, overlaying those over each other. And having AI suggest you meaningful outputs out of it. Like you see some Kubernetes events that are happening. Generally, what's a developer workflow? They would copy paste that error log, put it to ChatGPT, get some response, and try to debug further. Can we integrate some of those things? Can we suggest some of those things within the product and say,
look at few alerts, or look at few things what are happening, and then suggest to like have an AI which was suggesting, hey, I foresee something like this is coming up like that. That's
correct. And because we have data around infrastructure, all the events that are coming in, the deployment events that are stacked over it, we can actually make something more meaningful with AI. It's not just one data point. It can help me give me an insight, collaborating all of those things together.
So we talked about Sumo Logic, your journey in Sumo Logic. You learned a lot about the observability, and what made you what was the thought process behind thinking about moving into this Kapstan? What was the thing which said this is a place where we should go and innovate? Lacking innovation over there, we'll go invest our time on that. Help us understand that.
Sumo Logic, the scale over there, and we had I think for one of the services we had 5,000 EC2 nodes running in one region, and to be able to figure out or just manage that infrastructure, it was an uphill task. There was a 25 people team supporting around 350-400 engineers on a day-to-day basis in terms of creating that layer of tooling, automation, ensuring security patches are applied, getting us visibility into cost, where are there things where we can sort of reduce cost, or I think Kafka upgrades is something that I remember used to be the chatter every single day in some team or the other. Kafka upgrades was a problem, right? So there was a lot of for lack of better word, gymnastics that would happen behind the scenes to put up that show, right? So now, and that's not just Sumo Logic. I think back in the day, very early in my career, my father asked me to build something for his business, and I had things up and running locally in almost no time. But then I had to deploy it, and infrastructure was just a nightmare. There were so many things, so many knobs in AWS that I just couldn't figure out how to navigate that. And it was a lot of learning, a lot of time that I spent over there doing that. And then if you cut to today, where almost anybody can build. There's this term that I learned recently called vibe coding. So almost everybody can build. And what if there is a tool to help them deploy very, very quickly. One piece of the puzzle is solved, let's solve the other piece of the puzzle. And so, there were some of these things which led us, a couple of us at Sumo Logic to think, let's solve the infrastructure pain point, let's solve the pain point of what happens after you push your code from your laptop. How do you take it to cloud? How do you ensure all the pieces that I said, right? Reliability, security, upgrades, and so on. So we started off, Kapstan as a company which could help you get you up and running in cloud in a matter of a few clicks using an intuitive UI. You don't have to think about 50 different knobs to spin up a database. There is a Kapstan opinionated way of doing things where we have put in industry best practices by learning from running that much amount of scale. So you can launch pretty much everything that you'd like, and then we brought our focus to, so infrastructure is a one-time thing, and by one-time thing I mean that you probably come to launching new infrastructure pieces every couple of months maybe, but not every day. But everyday pain for a developer is application management. I want to deploy. I want to probably add some environment variables, tune some scaling parameters as I go, and then monitor what's happening with my new version, and just keep on quickly deploying and keep on quickly producing value. So we wanted to harness the power of Kubernetes, make it very, very simple, take it to the users with a simple UI again. And that's how this platform came into existence. And then when we went to some of our customers, we did hear that, oh, but what if I want to have control on? I don't want to use Kapstan's opinionated Helm chart or a Terraform that you've written for a particular infrastructure piece. I want to have my after a certain scale, you want to tune things like Kapstan's opinionated configurations would take us to solve 90% of the use cases, but for the 10% niche use cases, you would still want to tune it even more. So we're bringing in functionality where you can plug in your own Terraform files and your own Helm charts while still exposing the day-to-day configurations to the developers, which they can manage via UI, right? Like environment variables is a very common use case. So you can just, for that you don't need to learn YAML, or you don't need to go into managing, even if you know YAML, it's a different repository. You have to ensure that, is it a secret? Can I put it here? If it's a secret, then you have to go a different route, and so on. So, simplifying all of that while still offering the flexibility.
Perfect. Yeah, I was watching the demo, like one of the demo was there, like the Kapstan, and one of the things what I have also faced when we spin up a new region, when we want to replicate what we have, it's a big thing. Yes. You have to plan. You have to have a plan in place. It's not. I wouldn't say it takes a lot of time, but it takes time. Like it's not like it comes into the quarterly planning. Like, okay, we have some customers in this region wants to. But when I was looking, this is so cool. You can replicate from one region to other region. You have everything that just replicate. Talk a little bit more about building this product right now. The product is there, but there are a lot of things like having people come together. I see that you all are remote first organization. Mm-hmm. What challenges do you face about it? I'm an office person. Like I like people to be in office, and I feel when you are together in office, you just innovate without even thinking about innovation. Mm-hmm. Because you're talking, you're just talking. Yeah. You don't have to put a meeting invite in place. You're just talking. You innovate when you're talking. But I would love to understand your perspective. Like, how do you see it? Like, how are you innovating? And how are you actually keeping up with such a distributed team?
That's a great question. And I get asked that question a lot of times, actually. So the first thing the key to this is the initial team that we built or we got together was people that we knew very well. We were comfortable. We knew each other. We knew different ways of working with them, and there was that trust factor, right? Then, of course, comes the culture setting part, and how do you keep innovating in a remote setup? So, first of all, we copied something called a user manual from Atlassian. So, I have a user manual. Everybody who joins the team has to write their own user manual, and that everybody else reads and gets to know the other person, right? It has questions like, what's the best work environment for me? What are the times that work for me? How do I like to receive feedback? Am I a chat person more or a call person more? And some fun things about me, right? So that helps build that human connect with the team. Then the other thing is that with distributed teams, you need to write a lot, and we document. That is just like the single most important thing that you need to do, and I think that's very important for even teams that go to office work together. But let's say if one of your team members has not come into office today, that does not mean that they should miss out on a meeting that happened today, right? Or the decisions that were taken, why they were taken, why did we decide to go this way versus that way, so we write a lot. We write in terms of creating design documents, product specs, obviously, and then some of these decisions, how they're taken. We have 2 weekly meetings, which we don't do a lot of meetings which are scheduled on the calendar otherwise, but we have 2 weekly meetings. One I was talking about earlier, which is that learning session, and the other is show and tell, which where we just demo things that we've built over the past week. And these are mandatory camera on meetings. So that's another thing.
Mandatory camera on meeting, and that's
just these two, because again, sometimes you got to see the face, see the reactions. That's how in office you see the body language, you get to collaborating and all of that, right? And then we do quarterly meetups. We meet together as a team once every 3 months and work together for a week. That's something that helps for sure. So those are some of the things which have worked for us. And I think the beauty of remote is that if I know I have worked with someone in the past and I know that I can't get them to say Gurgaon, it's okay. And I don't lose out on talent with whom I would love to work and have contribute to my product. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I was about to ask, for me, nothing can replace a handshake.
Yeah.
To get to know a person, you need to have that, but I think you already answered. You guys have a quarterly meetup, and it's not about pronouncing or something. It is about finding the talent who can pronouncing a name or like that. It is more about you have the talent. Yeah, globalization has helped a lot of organizations in that case, So, we talked about you moving from being individual contributor to an engineering leader, and now a co-founder and head of engineering. Mm-hmm. But when you start a startup, when you're a co-founder and starting a startup, you just can't be just doing an engineering. Yeah. So talk a little bit more about how your role has been as a co-founder, what all you get to do, and how do you juggle between different stuff you have to deal with, where you have a knowledge, you may not have a knowledge, you have to learn through. So talk about a little bit about your learnings, wearing different hats as a co-founder.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest learning that I've had is building is easy, selling is hard. So that's one key thing that I'm learning as I go. But yeah, no 2 days are same in a co-founder's journey, I would say, not in the early stages at least. I think I'm at Kapstan, I've done things from everything from writing code, hiring people, mentoring, coaching, Figma. So I for a very long time at Kapstan in the beginning, I learned Figma and I was just designing for the product. That's something that I love. I have been partners with UX designers in my previous organizations, but I just got my hands dirty over here to move things faster when it was needed. Then on the GTM side, just like, writing blogs, going to events. I was at SaaS Boomi earlier this week and met a lot of interesting people, interesting teams, doing like, crazy amount of revenue with like a very, very small team. So that was quite inspiring actually. And then just, strategizing, having a vision of where do we want to go. Okay, we made this is not working. Okay, let's try something else. Oh, this is working. This, we release a feature and the customer absolutely loves something. That sort of pumps back in the energy, and you keep going. So it's a lot of different things. It's a lot of context switch juggling, but you just have to build that muscle.
Perfect. Talk a little bit more about like how do you help selling? Like you're good at building as an engineer, but selling is hard. So what kind of techniques? What have you learned? Like how do you help the selling? Like I'll tell you like I generally join the organizations when they are startup, but moving out of the startup, like moving into and looking into the scaling, where the first thing what I see in the startups culture is like selling is important. So when they have a customer, they customize their product for that customer, because selling is important. We have to sell. If we find a customer, we have to sell. So is that the same experience you have? Like for selling, you guys build customization. Like how do you help sell your product from the engineering perspective, from the development perspective?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as I was thinking about it, I think we do not have, we do not have, almost anything is not customized to a customer per se. A lot of times it has happened that it might help close a deal if we were able to do this thing which is not in the product. Supporting an infrastructure piece which is not in the product, right? So we help establish that, like we help get that thing up and running from outside the platform, and ensure that within the next 3-4 weeks, or depending on what the feature is, you have it integrated in the platform, and customer starts using it from the Kapstan platform itself. That is one thing. Second thing is, is it, like, we're very mindful of, is it very specific to this customer? And you have to know when to say no, because if you end up building very custom things for every customer, then at the end of the day, probably it would not be a single story which can be sold. Ultimately, you find a product market fit when you have a repeatable story, when you can sell repeatedly with the current set of things that you have. So we're always thinking that we have to ensure that it does not become fragmented, right? What are the pieces that we want to be around? Because theoretically and technically, sure, we can solve everything, but what do we want to solve, and where is it that we want to go deep? And do that one thing very, very, in a focused way and very, very nicely.
You talked a little bit about Figma, where you played a role of a designer. So looks like UI stuff you have played around. So how do you look at UI? Like how important it is building the features over building the UI? Your customers are developers. Are they also looking for a good UI is important, or a function? So how? What is your perspective? Like you know this customer base better than I do. Like what is your perspective over there?
So I think user experience, all in all, is very, very important. And I think when we say UI, we tend to directly think about like screens, or how is my interface looking? But it's much more than that. It actually goes into the entire user experience of the journey of how the user is interacting with your product, right? And even today, I spend a non-trivial amount of time thinking about the entire user experience. I was recently watching a video about BYD, the EV car company, right? And they're aiming to bring the experience of charging the cars to 10 minutes. It should be as seamless as you're filling your car with petrol, right? So disruption should happen like that with technology. So EV cars are here now. The biggest challenge that all of us have, if you have an EV car, is I have to find a charging station. I have to have time at my hand, or I have to have charge it overnight. It takes a lot of time. If that one thing is sort of taken away, and if you can optimize the time to bring the user experience to how it was with my regular car, that would be a game changer, right? So I think, user experience is extremely, extremely important from that perspective. Even in dev tools, and especially because we are all developers, it actually helps us that we use our own product. We deploy Kapstan using Kapstan. At Sumo Logic, we were using ourselves as our observability tool, right? So you immediately get into the customer's shoes and you start. There are so many ideas that come from our engineers, because they're using it day to day. They're feeling the pain. They know that this is the next. If I had this, it would save me a couple of hours, right? So that's that. And I'll bring the AI angle to it, right? So right now, everybody is trying to fit a chatbot or a chat interface, if not a chatbot, to every problem. That I think is. I don't know where I am with it. I'm not feeling very settled about it. There are a lot of problems that can be solved with chat, but not everything. And like I mentioned, I was in SaaS Boomi earlier, right? And I was attending a talk where they showed an interface where there was a chat, and there were some widgets that would come as part of that chat, right? So if you're doing some serious thing, you want to interact with, you have more confidence in forms, or maybe if I get a toggle, I know exactly how it's going to behave. But if I write something, I may not get that confidence. Oh, is it exactly what are you doing behind the scenes, right? That somehow we've gotten used to that form based UI. So that was a very good thing that I was inspired that can I combine chat interface with some interfaces that users are used to, similar to what I was saying about BYD. So yeah.
So yeah, user interface is important. My mom always says, "Jo dikhta wahi bikta."
Absolutely.
User experience is very important. Kapstan is a startup which you are working on. Apart from Kapstan, any other companies, any other startups you look up to, or you're watching them?
I don't have any particular companies to name per se, but I'm actually very excited about the impact of AI and humanoid robots, actually, how they are going to change our day-to-day. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to is there are certain very hazardous tasks for human beings, right? How can robots help in that space? There was some video that I was watching around waste recycling and segregating. Or certain areas dangerous areas where humans can't get into. So some of those kind of things are quite interesting to me. Can I imagine doing a podcast with a humanoid sitting over there? Or just, having them in your house, and I don't know. Yeah, that's something interesting to me.
Yeah, when one of my managers in previous companies, and we were talking, and he's like, Madhu, can you imagine managing the bots, engineer bots, they're doing a job for you and you're managing. Engineering leader, rather than managing engineers, you're managing that.
Yeah, no, you have to think about, I think that day is not far ahead where you have to think about culture which is good for both AIs and human beings. We'll be working together, yeah.
That's a perfect time. I think I can pivot towards what are the few important things for engineers or bots to keep up to, what suggestions you have or skills you think in next to 5-6 years or 5-10 years they should be keeping up to be successful as an engineers.
Right. So I read an interesting thread on LinkedIn the other day where someone said that there was this vibe coder who in his interview just made amazing screens, and they could get so much done during that 1 hour. And but when this person asked them to actually modify something in the code or deep dive into that code, explain what was happening, the person couldn't, right? So the debate is, what do you want? Do you want to have such people on the team? Is it good for speed or do you not? My personal perspective on that is, and relates to what you were saying on, how are the next 5 or 10 years looking for engineers, is that we need to adapt to this technology to the best of our, to speed up the things that we do, to do them better. However, it is not a replacement. And when things go wrong, there's going to be a lot of AI-generated code over the next few years. And if you're a software engineer, pick up that core skill, learn something and have your fundamentals very, very strong. When things go wrong, you will be a human being, at least for the foreseeable future, is going to be required to be able to figure out what's happening, right? And over the years, I have said this to a lot of engineers. Over my engineering experience, I have worked on 4 JavaScript frameworks. Today, when I talk to like some of the fresh grads, they say they know React, but sometimes they do not know the JavaScript basics, right? And over the years, I've told people that frameworks will come and go. Your fundamentals have to be strong. Someone who understood, like over the years, someone who understood JavaScript, they could adapt to the new framework very, very quickly. And now, with React is here to stay and it has been there for a while. But now the new wave is AI, and how do you make use of that, still knowing your fundamentals very, very strongly. So that's what I would say.
Okay. This is an interesting section, I think, about the podcast, because we have to think through very quickly and answer. So
Sure.
I'll go with the rapid fire round. Because we are all engineers, so let's talk about this. Command line or GUI?
GUI for me. I told you earlier, I'm all about user experience. So
This I think I know. Remote, in office, or hybrid?
So in office, if you don't make me travel. But yeah, no, remote and elements of hybrid in there.
I don't know if you can answer this. Monolith or microservices?
Microservices.
Most overrated tech trend?
I think I kind of answered this in one of the questions, but integrating chat interfaces to everything in using AI.
Yeah, everybody does virtual agents, right? Most underrated tech trend?
DevOps and incident management. I think that's
yeah, perfect.
That is an afterthought, and Kapstan will help you, think about it proactively and actually take it off your plate, and you can still build while not letting it become an afterthought.
Best productivity hack?
Oh, all right. So I am a checklist person. And I'll take a minute to answer this. So I always say that, we have limited RAM. We should not keep things in our mind, just write. It's both useful for, I have my own personal notes, then I have collaborative documents with people I'm working on different projects. Just free up your space, write down things, and follow the checklists. I've created numerous amount of templates for various areas to become productive, to keep my team productive. So yeah, that's my productivity hack.
I think I know the answer. What skill has served you best throughout your career?
Yeah, I think caring a little bit more about just what you're doing, caring about the customer, caring about the what, how, and why of it. That's what's helped me.
I have few last questions. Definitely, we cannot close out without knowing your interesting book. Like which book do you recommend people to read? What was it about?
So I think I really like 2 books. One is Radical Candor. And the art of giving feedback. You sometimes you got to be straight. Sometimes you're doing a favor to the other person by just delivering it to them straight and what needs to be improved. The other is Build by Tony Fadell. So this is a book that I was reading just before joining Kapstan. Maybe it played a role in how you build startups or how you just come out with such innovative products like he's done, and his journey. I remember again user experience. I remember one thing that he talks about when they were building thermostats. They did a very simple thing. They started packaging a screwdriver with the thermostat so that the buyer does not have to search when they're installing, right? It's just a simple thing. And it made a huge difference in the user experience for their users. So yeah, that was another book. That's another book that I'd recommend. This is just one anecdote that I remember, but there are a lot of insights in that book.
What's the best piece of advice you have received in your career?
When to say no. I never know when to say no. Or at least, well, I've improved, but I would take on a lot of work because I just did not know how to say no. And I think in startup, like you were asking about, do you build customized things for every product? This is an important aspect. You need to know when to say no to stay focused.
Any final thoughts you would like to share with our listeners?
I would just say, stay hungry, keep innovating, and be kind to one another.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you, Sakshi, for joining us. It was very interesting to talk to you, learn from you, from your experience. And thanks, audience, for joining us as well, for listening in. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.